Just some random guy with a deck in his hand going, woo!
Yeah, pretty
Well, I
much.
just
Empty
remember
room.
we ran a Yu Yu Hakusho event and a drag. It was at one of the anime expos the year Inuyasha came out.
Yeah, and you
And
got that
we ran-
video of that guy.
Yeah, and we ran like a we canceled the Yu Yu Hakusho event there to run Dragon Booster, and this is when we were like, we got these big notions of like grandeur in our head that we were going to pump all this money into our OP. So we actually threw like a lot of money behind all these OPs for Inuyasha and Dragon Booster, and we created like the score universal point system or whatever, where you could play in all the games and build score points. And we bought like that stage that cost a fortune, and we would ship around to all of our tournaments. So we were trying to compete with like the Versus big X-Men chamber and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
Scott and I are sitting in this huge tournament room that we have this big Dragon Boosters tournament schedule where we're going to have give out all this money, and we have this huge setup in there. And we're sitting in there and we're playing Magic because there's not a soul in this room. It's completely empty, and this room maybe holds like 100 and something people.
Oh,
And this guy walks in, and I just happened to be like fiddling with my camera at that point, and it was on. And this guy walks in, and he's just like, if you guys were running Yu Yu Hakusho, I guarantee there'd be like 5 to 10 people here. But this is Dragon Booster, and this whole room is empty. And he just walks away. Scott looks at me, he's like, did you record that? I was like, yeah, I did. And he was like 5 to 10 people, wow.
Man, I remember that video. That video was great. It made me cry a little bit inside, but in the end, it was
It
pretty
wasn't
awesome
your
video.
fault. None of that Dragon Booster stuff was a nightmare.
Yeah, I know. I regret all that effort that was put into it. And the game's actually not that bad. It's just
No.
nobody except for some people in Israel
Yeah.
have ever gotten to play it.
That's like I said when I was bringing up the Afterworld thing, there was a lot of stuff that a lot of people put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into. And like the most two most playtested games by far. The most, like, they spent more money and manpower playtesting Dragon Booster and Yu Yu Hakusho than they did any of the other games. Because we were, like, for Yu Yu Hakusho on Gateway, that's when Tibbles was there, and he brought in, like, 8 or 9 L5R players. And
Well,
we all
no.
lived in a...
He brought in 5 L5R players, and then he brought in the 3 to 4 the local crew. You know, Owen and the homie and such.
Oh, yeah, and then he was putting us all up in that hotel across the street. And I can't imagine how much money that cost. So, I mean, Rob, Jimmy, and I lived in that hotel for a month and a half, and then we lived in that other hotel down by the baseball stadium for almost 2 months. And we weren't paying for it. Like, they were just like, Tibbles was like, oh, I'm taking it out of the playtesting budget. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Dragon Ball Z, like, once we started entering the Boo era and started getting a more robust playtesting staff that was actually there for playtesting and not actually doing other jobs and playtesting on the side, you know, because Kid Boo got a thoroughly good playtesting and had a lot of manpower behind it, and GT did as well through it. But I don't know. Dragon Booster got some, but I don't think that it was the amount of playtesting Dragon Booster got was anywhere near like what Yu Yu Hakusho got or Inuyasha got. Or
Well,
I should say early Inuyasha, I should say.
Inuyasha started getting playtesting in the 3rd, and the 4th, and the 5th set. Because the first set of Inuyasha was playtested by Mike and I, and you, when you would come in when you were like, I got to take a break from Dragon Booster, you would come in, because we were playtesting a set of Yu Yu Hakusho. That's what our main duty was. They were like, your main duty is to playtest these sets of Yu Yu Hakusho. And I think we might have been getting ready to start playtesting in Lost Episodes. And they had let go of the designers that were going to design Inuyasha. So Mike and I just volunteered to make it in our spare time. So we made Inuyasha, and then we went through 3 versions of the engine and playtested the set between ourselves and you and Juddy in our spare time, and that was what the first set of Inuyasha was. And it wasn't until after the set came out and it became a huge success that they actually officially moved Mike and I from playtesting because we didn't have to sit in the war room anymore. Remember, they moved us out into cubicles, and
Oh,
they made us
yeah.
actual designers. It wasn't
That
until
was
after
Mike's
Inuyasha.
downfall.
Yeah, and it wasn't until after Inuyasha had come out and become a success that they were like, you guys don't have to play test anymore. You guys are going to design Inuyasha now because it's really successful. But yeah, after that, when GT was on the downcline and Dragon Booster wasn't out yet, like that's where all the playtesting went, was to those couple sets of Inuyasha.
Yeah, because I remember we had a lot of like in-house Inuyasha tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Inuyasha is a lot more fun when you get unlimited quantities of whatever cards you want.
Yeah. Well, I think playtesting was also more organized for Inuyasha during that time frame because we actually had like Kunk was there and he was a really good playtest manager. So playtesting
Yeah, he was.
in general,
Kunk was awesome.
Yeah, playtesting in general was just way more productive than it was in the early days. Because like
Yes.
we had guys who were like actual tournament players, so we could sit down and tell them to test certain things, and they would be able to do it.
Well, I think we kind of beat that question to death.
I don't think it's been moving for a while.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Just move on to my list here.
All right.
It's kind of cowering, so give me a sec.
Oh, it's all right.
There we go. Come on out. It's okay. Anyway, why didn't Score use the template from Kid Buu Saga previews for all GT sets instead of creating a new one?
Are you talking about the card back?
Black one?
The preview templates that were in the Kid Buu Saga for GT didn't carry over to the actual game.
Ah, okay.
This was one of those like rebranding decisions. I actually remembered all this.
Yeah, like I said, the management had changed, and for many people that were now in charge of Score, there are a lot of things of wanting to, and I don't know how nicer to necessarily put it, but kind of flush out a lot of Chaz's influence in the division. Like that's why one of the major reasons why we even got our entirely new Score Entertainment symbol, you know, that blue yin-yangy looking thing versus the old kind of cursive looking Score that we had in the past. And that also included the card templates for GT. You know, we can totally start anew and totally create some stuff. I mean, there was even an art battle between Carl and Todd as far as actually creating the templates and designs. There were actually 8 or 9 different card template designs created for the first set of GT that we eventually boiled through until the one that we got. But a lot of that was kind of spurred on as far as just the spring cleaning. Okay, we have new management, or we're setting our branding this way, we're showing this direction that we're going, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why the templates that were used on the Kid Buu previews weren't necessarily carried on.
Well, I just remember a conversation with the sales department where the sales department came back and talked to the playtesting department, one of the few times ever that anybody outside of the designers ever came and talked to the playtesting department. And they were very adamant about removing the color, like the bright colors from the cards, because all the GT cards have that like black template with the white lettering.
Yes.
And they had done some type of focus study or something about teenage boys, and they had come to the conclusion that teenage boys like black, which I'm not going to argue with. You go to any high school, you're going to see a lot of kids wearing black clothing. But they wanted all the color removed, and they wanted them to look more like black and kind of dark and gothic looking. So I just remembered that being like, really, that's okay, sure.
That's pretty bad.
Focus test marketing, focus group.
All right, well, we have an interesting little side question here in regards to top tier. There was some allegedly fake cards popping up. Do you guys remember the names of those cards for GT?
Or the Almighty Light Cage and the Super Dragon Fist?
Okay. Yeah, those were the ones. Have you guys noticed any difference between, like, are there any distinguishing marks between what is a real card and what is a fake card?
In a general sense, or specifically with
It,
one of those cards?
in a general sense, I think is what we should really stick with.
First thing I look at is the white plating, if it's a foil card.
Yeah. Score ran very unique white plates. The white plate was customized for every card, and every image printed on a card. So, and some of them got quite detailed as far as what was specifically white plate and what wasn't. So, yeah, you're right. The white plate is the first thing to look at. I would also look at the card stock as well, specifically the pliability of the card stock, because there were throughout the development of Score, one of the things the production or Dragon Ball, one of the things production managers did every now and then was they came to us with new cards. They just like nothing was printed on them. There was just a bunch of Dragon Ball Z backs. But they were of different cardstock materials, maybe some of them cheaper or some of them of quantities that they already had in the warehouse, and they would actually have us sit there and shuffle them and everything. And many of them were rejected because it was very easily to tell the difference in the pliability of the cards, how easy they were able to bend, and how they specifically shuffled. Now I know
They would have
for
us tear them in
collectors,
half as well.
yeah. Now I wouldn't. Now I know a collector's not going to tear them in half, or even going to want to shuffle them because that could damage the cards. But you could try to do a little bit of a bend as well. It is somewhat distinctive, versus what if somebody was trying to make counterfeit cards and they just came across card stock, and printed it on it, it most likely would feel a bit different, or they specifically found the right card stock. But
Yeah.
I
Another
mean,
thing I
that's
look at too is like the cards are very old at this point, and especially a foil card. And this is especially true with GT cards, is that unless they were like immediately pulled out and put in some type of protective casing, the card's going to kind of warp, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just foil cards in general kind of just they warp, they start to curve. And if it's a really really old card and it doesn't have any form of a curve and it looks like it's brand new and like fresh and crisp, I'd be kind of a wary of that.
yeah, because those are the two strongest indicators to me that so there was a pair that some people wanted me to see and comment on the top tier forums, and the white plate plus the freshness of the card are the two biggest indicators to me of it not necessarily being legit. So that, and I know personally there's a mistake on the white plating on one of the world championship cards, that is actually kind of corrected on the real one. I don't necessarily want to say what it is, so if somebody actually is out there making cards or whatnot, at least from the video that I saw, I didn't see this mistake. That was actually on the card. And a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know about the mistake because there were only a few people in-house that actually saw the white plates and what ended up in the real world when it actually got printed, let alone actually saw the card enough to be recognizable with it, because a lot of those cards were shredded and destroyed, and one of them was even reclaimed. So
Reclaimed?
yeah, with the whole Tim Mez cheating scandal thing for the world's focused. I'm not 100%, but if my memory holds true, I thought that we actually kept that card, and Mez
I believe
didn't
it was,
get it,
I
or
believe
we
it was
got it
taken
back
back.
from
Yeah.
something like that. But
Destroyed.
basically, we ended up with the card and actually destroyed it so that there wouldn't be any copies of it floating around. Because without it being handed out at that championships, you're like, okay, well, this is supposed to be one of a kind. We can't hand it out, so we should have no copies of it.